Hey, good morning. My name is Big Ken. Welcome from the Grid to the Rim Sports Talk Show. I'm going live today. Hopefully, I get some guests live today so we could talk, have a conversation, chat, whatever the case may be. Usually, I do this show, and you can see on my thumbnail we have a from the Grid to the Room, thumbnail. Usually, we have that as our backdrop in the background when we do our shows through Zoom, and I could load that up in the background. Still haven't figured out how to do it live. Researched it, but it's on the thumbnail though. But this is from the Grid Storm Sports Talk Show. Like I said, I usually do this with my best friend Monty Brown and his nephew Dwayne sometimes, and some other guests I have. But today I'm going solo. I already beat that up, but there's a lot of things to talk about. Um, See if what we're going to talk about today is CFP round one, maybe some recap on some of those games. Did Tulane and James Madison deserve to be in the college football playoffs? I know what the format they have right now, that's how they got in, so we could talk about that. Monty and I, my best friend, talked about that last show we had. So you could check out that from the Grid to the Rim. We have a bunch of shows this year about college and NFL football. So we already kind of hit up the format. Should it expand to 16 teams instead of 12? Because Notre Dame kind of got screwed over. We know this, but sometimes they don't help themselves by not being in a conference, and they're not them kind of like opting out of a bowl game. Just kind of makes things worse. They probably should have, in my opinion, played in a bowl game. So yeah, definitely talk about CFP round one recap. Talk about some predictions for the quarterfinals. There's some good games slated in the quarterfinals and some of the New Year's Eve and New Year's Day bowl games. All of them very famous bowl games: Rose Bowl, Cotton Bowl, Sugar Bowl, Orange Bowl. Those are some classics. They've been around for a long time. NFL news: DK Metcalf is big news. His incident or altercation with the fan. Was he provoked? And even if he was provoked, we're all human, but should he have done that? From what I know, he's suspended for 2 games, which is going to hurt the Steelers because there's 2 games left in the season. As of now, they do have a wild card spot, but they're not, locked into the playoffs. They're still fighting. So that's big for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Also, old man Phillip Rivers, we're going to talk about him. I thought he played well last night, Monday Night Football. I think his defense completely let him down, giving up 41 points, 42 points, whatever it was. And, of course, at the very end, unfortunately, he had a pick 6. The game was very close for a while, and then it kind of got extended out in the fourth quarter. Especially with the pick 6, the game got completely out of reach. Derrick Henry also, Sunday Night Football game against the Patriots, Ravens-Patriots. Derrick Henry had an early fumble, like late in the first quarter, something like that, early second. And he has had some fumbling issues in the earlier part of the season when they went 1-5. But to my knowledge, Derrick Henry has not been a big fumbler, and hasn't really had much of a fumbling problem in his career until this year. But even though he fumbled early in the game, like, he bounced back and he had over 120 rushing yards and was absolutely killing the Patriots. So why was he not in the last 2 possessions when the game is very close and they have a chance to, still win this game? Because they were leading most of this game, or at least most of the second half, and the Patriots came back to win it in the end. So talk about that, because I don't know what the decision was going on. Harbaugh is actually a really good coach for Baltimore, won a Super Bowl, and comes from a coaching family. The Harbaugh brothers and their dad, was a famous coach, but I don't understand that. I think he should have absolutely been in the game, especially the last series. Maybe not the second to the last series, but the last series he didn't play. So we'll talk about that. I'm kind of going into detail now, which is my apologies. But we'll go into more detail when we get to NFL. But let's talk about, how do you start off with football first? College football first. I kind of wanted to hit up the DK Metcalf situation first, since it was such big news, but I'll stick with my normal format and stick with the college football first, like we do for all the rest of our shows. The Alabama-Oklahoma game was a great game. Oklahoma got off to a big start. Looked like it might be a blowout. They were up 17-0 early second quarter. it looked like Oklahoma might run away with this game, but give a lot of credit to Alabama. They fought back. They made it 17-7, middle of the second quarter. Then, Oklahoma goes 3 and out. Alabama responds to another field goal, 17-10. But the big killer was the pick six by the Oklahoma quarterback, right at the end of the first half, and it's tied 17-17 going into halftime. Alabama has this crazy amount of momentum. It continued in the third quarter. It was 27-17 at the end of the third quarter. So Alabama added on another 10 points. But give Oklahoma credit, they scored a touchdown to make it 27-24. So they didn't completely tank. They got it back to a one-score game. They had a couple other opportunities to get to one-score games, but their field goal kicker, who's usually pretty reliable, just missed 2 kicks. Especially the first one was very easy, very makeable, under 40 yards. A D1 kicker should usually make that kick 95% of the time, and he missed. And then the other one was a little more tougher, 51 yards. He was on target, but he was a little bit short, which is kind of strange because most kickers have the leg these days to make 50-plus yards field goals. It was only 51. It wasn't like it was pushing 60. That'll be a different story. But, he was short on a 51-yard field goal, which is kind of surprising. But it was right down the middle, but he was short by a couple of yards. Alabama won that game 34-24. There's kind of some questions if they deserve to be in the playoffs or not, but obviously they showed everyone that they're still Alabama. DeBoer probably got some of his critics off his back a little bit for not losing in a first-round playoff game, because there was some talk if he loses in the first round, would he get fired? Will he take the Michigan job? We all know about the drama going on in Michigan with former head coach Sharon Moore and the huge scandal with him having an inappropriate relationship with a staffer, a young lady on his staff. And accordingly, this went on for like a couple of years, so it wasn't like this quick fling. It was going on for quite a while, which is insane. And of course, Sharon Moore has 3 small girls and a wife, and like he's done probably in college sports. The other really good game was, which I predicted to be a good game, was the Miami Texas A&M game. That was a straight up defensive battle. Miami wins. What was it? I think it was 13-7 or 13-10, but straight up defensive battle. Both kickers missed crazy amount of kicks that game. But Miami wins. They prevail. Yeah, both defenses showed up. It was definitely a heavyweight fight. It was a low scoring game. It was a very entertaining game, and I did predict Miami to win because I just know Miami's history. Obviously, they haven't been in college football playoffs in a long time. Their heyday was like in the 80s, 90s, or the first half of the 2000s. They were still decent, them and Florida State. We know about that rivalry back in the day. A lot of NFL talent on both those teams back then. And but I knew Miami had the history, and I didn't know about Texas A&M's history, because this is kind of a first time for Texas A&M. It's not a first time for Miami. Yes, it's been a long time, but I just think Miami had the pedigree and the history of this, knowing how to win big games, and it kind of showed up. I know a lot of Notre Dame fans say like, hey, I think they said something like we put up 40 points on Texas A&M, but you lost to Texas A&M. It was a close game, yes, and you lost to Miami. Do you deserve to be in the playoffs? Absolutely. Like, so my best friend Monty and I talked about this last week's show. Notre Dame got screwed. There's no doubt about it. But it was just a different style of game. You can't compare apples and oranges, like a week 1, week 2 game versus a college football playoff game, 2.5 months later. It just depends on matchups and, how the season's going. And this is a big, big game. And, and yes, Notre Dame got screwed, but you can't say, well, we scored 41 against these guys, and why did Miami score 13 or whatever the case may be? Is this it was just a different style game, man. And they could have scored more. They missed a lot of kicks. I think they could have scored 19 points. The guy makes all of his kicks, but only scored 13, something like that. But I think the other thing with Miami is that some Notre Dame fans have questions about is, they didn't win the ACC, but they were 2-loss team in a major Power 4 conference. That's why they got in. Duke and Virginia both did not get in. They were in the ACC championship game. Duke had 5 losses. So I guess I'm assuming Miami's 2 losses were in the ACC. That's why they did not make the championship game. But they still played a pretty good schedule, and they beat Notre Dame earlier this year, and they beat some other good teams. So I think Miami deserved to be in, and they proved that by winning against a very good Texas A&M team. So Notre Dame fans, you guys can complain, but you guys are just making it worse on yourselves because you guys need to be in a conference, and you should, my opinion, should have played in the bowl game. I know they have a right to decline it. They have their own reasons. We all have our opinions, and they have a right to have their own opinion. But I think Notre Dame should have played in a bowl game. It kind of looks like they're sore losers in a way. But I understand the frustration because they got screwed. James Madison and Tulane are not better than Notre Dame. I mean, they got screwed. I said that. How many times I said that already this show? But again, they're making it worse. How many times I said that already? So thoughts, people. College football playoff format. Monty and I've already discussed this multiple times. Should it go to 16 teams? Then we wouldn't be having this conversation. Notre Dame would have been in no matter what. Tulane got blown out against Ole Miss 41-10. We all knew this. Notre Dame would give them a better game. You know this. James Madison made it look respectable. They lost 51-34. They did put up 34 against Oregon, but almost all those points came in the second half. It was 34-6 at halftime. I wasn't watching that game, so I don't know exactly what happened to Oregon. I don't want to take anything away from James Madison, but I'm assuming, like I said, don't quote me, I don't know, I didn't watch it, but I'm assuming Oregon had allowed their second and third string guys in there, giving some playing time, and that's how I believe maybe James Madison was able to score 28 points in the second half because it was 34-6 at halftime when Oregon had all their starters in, But give James Madison credit. They scored 34 points against a really good team. Oregon's no slouch, but I still don't know how they got the 28 second half points. So that's the question. It's did these teams deserve to get in there? Yeah, I'm a big advocate for small schools, but I've said before multiple times, I think one small school could be in the college football playoffs, but not two. And to Monty and my point, we said multiple times, it just makes more sense to go to 16 teams, have all these teams in there, like D2 does, and I think FBS does something like that. They both do something like that. They have a 16-team format. They've had it for years. Major D1 should go to that. So, like I said, I'm an advocate for small schools, the whole David versus Goliath, but I just don't think college football is the same way as college basketball, March Madness, where mid-majors always make huge upsets. There's just a different thing. There's more parity in college basketball than there is in college football. I think the powerhouses in college football just dominate 95% of the time. There is an occasional upset. I know Northern Illinois beat Notre Dame a couple years ago. Appalachian State beat Michigan 20 years ago, I think in 2005, when Michigan was ranked 5 in preseason polls in the first game of the year. That was embarrassing. I'm a Michigan fan, so very embarrassing. There's been a couple other big upsets in college football, but it's very rare compared to March Madness in college basketball, in my opinion. 5-on-5 on college basketball and having maybe 2 or 3 good subs to come in is a lot different than 11-on-11 with substitutes in football. I think there's a lot more physicality, obviously, in football, and it's just a different game. That's how I see it. But let me know what you guys think about that also, viewers and whoever watches this show. Hoping to get some people live. Right now I have nobody, but hopefully we can get somebody on. I'd like to take some comments and chat with you guys if possible. But let's get into some quarterfinals matchups. So we have number 1 Indiana versus number 9 Alabama in the Rose Bowl, the granddaddy of them all. I personally really like the Rose Bowl. It's always one of my most favorite bowl games to watch since I was a little kid. I like that Rose Bowl is in the college football format the past 2 years since we've been doing this new format of 12 teams that the Rose Bowl has been in. It's been a selection for the quarterfinals games on New Year's Day, and Rose Bowl was always played on New Year's Day when back in the day when it wasn't part of the college football format. I think Indiana's for real, but they certainly have a test. This is a big test. Hopefully, Indiana shows up. I think they will. I think they're legit in the playoffs last year. This year. Last year, I didn't think they weren't. I had a bad feeling they weren't going to do very well, and they did not. They lost on the first round Notre Dame. Notre Dame won fairly easily last year. I know the score was 27-17, but that wasn't how the game really went. Notre Dame had that game in complete control. I think if Indiana loses, it's okay. They just cannot get blown out. If they get blown out, everyone's gonna be saying SEC, Big Ten, and all this other crap. I want Indiana to show up. I think they're very capable of winning. I know they got the offense. I think they will be able to put some points against Alabama's defense. I don't think Alabama's defense is decent, but they're not elite. And I think Fernando Mendoza is the real deal. Heisman Trophy winner. The big thing is Indiana's defense. They're better defensively than I thought because Ohio State is a juggernaut on the offensive side of the ball. They have been for years. They always got offensive talent in the NFL, like crazy quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers. They got them all. And they got some defensive players as well, good defensive linemen, the Bosa brothers, and a couple of good linebackers and all that stuff. But primarily on the offensive side, they're absolutely freaking loaded. And Indiana shut them down, so that was surprising. Michigan could not, and Michigan has a decent defense also. So I think this game will be close. I will predict Indiana to win just because some of it is my heart. I'm a Big Ten guy. I'm not an Indiana fan, but I am a Michigan fan. But I will go for the Big Ten against SEC every day of the week and twice on Sunday. But the SEC is very good. They've dominated the past 2 decades. We know this, but I think there is a changing of the guard the past 3 or 4 years. And I think Indiana will win in a squeaker game. I know Alabama has no running game. Their quarterback Simpson is very good. They have very good wide receivers. That will be Indiana's challenge on defense. Can they get a pass rush on Simpson? Simpson is a good athlete. He can run. I've seen him run for some pretty good scrambles. He's faster than what you think. He's more athletic than what you think. I've seen this in 3 or 4 games. I've watched him play. But he can't, he's very good. He can throw some interceptions, and he's never played in a game like this in the in the quarterfinals before, but neither has Indiana. So it's going to be interesting. I predict Indiana to win in a squeaker. It's going to be like a 24-20, 27-23 kind of game. Indiana's not going to be able to put up 40-some points against Alabama, but I don't think they're going to get shut out either. So I predict Indiana to win in a close 1-score game. Next game is number 2 Ohio State versus number 10 Miami in the Cotton Bowl. Miami came off a big win against Texas A&M. I already mentioned that. Ohio State's for real. They've been there, done this. They're the defending champions. I think Miami will give them a game, but I do think Ohio State will prevail in this game. Miami obviously has Beck as the quarterback. He's very good. He's got a lot of experience coming from the University of Georgia. Miami has a beast running back. They're very talented, no doubt. They are back on the map. They look like the old Miami Hurricanes, but Ohio State is no joke either. This game could go either way, but I will take the edge to Ohio State because Ohio State, like I said, Ohio State's been there, done this. Many times they're always in the college football playoffs. They're not going to be surprised by anything. Like I said, I won't be surprised if Miami can win this game, but I will predict Ohio State in another close game. They could put up some points also. And Ohio State is very much improved on the defensive side of the ball compared to what they've been in years past. So no slouches on defense either. But both offenses can score some points. I think this is going to be like it's going to be similar to the Alabama-Indiana game. It's going to be like a 24-20, maybe 21-17 kind of game. I don't think they'll put up quite as many points, but they will score. But I think it'll be another 1-score game, close game coming down to the end. Um, number 3, Georgia versus number 6, Ole Miss in Sugar Bowl. Georgia does have a slight advantage, being a Sugar Bowl, which is in Atlanta, Georgia, I believe. I think, or is it in New Orleans? Anyways, I think it's in Georgia. Um, Slight advantage there if that's true. But this is an SEC matchup. Both teams very good. The question for Ole Miss is like one, we know Lane Kiffin left to go to the LSU after their coach got fired midseason after a very disappointing, year when they started off in the top 3 and they just faded away. Um, After the players are pissed off, they're playing for the interim head coach. But Georgia is a juggernaut. They won a couple of national championships recently. The question is, can Ole Miss go over the hump? They've been good in years past, but they've never been in the college football playoffs until this year. Obviously, they had a very easy round 1 matchup against, Tulane, which was a joke, like I already mentioned. But this is a big game. Georgia, I would love to see Ole Miss pull off the upset, but I think Georgia will win. So I've gone with the best team so far. There could be some upsets in these college football playoffs and the quarterfinals. There's no doubt. I think the most suspicious one is Indiana, like I said before. And the next one, Texas Tech versus Oregon, which I'm about to talk about in a minute. But I'll go with Georgia. Ole Miss is good enough to do it, but again, Georgia just has the pedigree. Been there, done that, like Alabama and Ohio State. That's why I'm going with them. Georgia will win. Their quarterback's got a lot of experience also taking over Carson Beck. He's been a pretty good starter 2 years in a row. He's athletic. He's talented. He can sling the rock. Georgia has a pretty good defense. Yeah, Georgia wins, but again, I think this will be close. This depends if Ole Miss shows up. This either could be a really good game or it could be a blowout. But Ole Miss is really good being at number 6. I still know about them since they haven't been in the college football playoffs before. That's the question mark. Number 4, Texas Tech versus number 5, Oregon. I don't know how to look at this game. Oregon was in the college football playoffs last year, but they got completely destroyed, being the number 1 team in the nation. They played against I think Ohio State was number 8 last year, and Ohio State just beat the crap out of them on New Year's Day bowl game in the Rose Bowl last year. This game is the Orange Bowl. Texas Tech, Oregon are playing the Orange Bowl in Miami. That's a big trip for both teams, a long trip for both teams. But Orange Bowl is another famous classic bowl game. I like it. I don't know how to rate this one because Texas Tech's never been there before, but their defense is really freaking good. They are legit. They absolutely get after it. They're the Big 12 champs. They are legit. But there's a week off kind of. How they perform after not playing for a week, a couple weeks probably. So I don't know. And Oregon played last week against James Madison, so Oregon might have a slight advantage there. But Oregon has kind of been a team that hasn't done much in the college football playoffs. Like they got blown out last year, but they did win against James Madison, a very easy game, kind of like the same thing for Ole Miss. Oregon has a really good offense, really good quarterback. Their defense is decent. I know they give up 34 points to James Madison. Like I don't know how, but their defense is decent. I believe they had the reserves in there, like I said before. But now watching the game, I don't know 100% for sure. This game is the hardest game to predict because I just know Texas Tech's defense is elite, but I don't know anything else much about them except for that. I haven't seen any of their games, but I just know they win by blowouts a lot. I've gone with all the top teams so far. This might be my upset. This might be my upset game. It's not a big upset, obviously, number 4 versus number 5. I also will not be surprised if Texas Tech wins this game with their defense. But I will go for Oregon's because I know a little bit more about Oregon than I do Texas Tech. That's the only reason why. Oregon has laid some eggs, like I said, but I think this year they're out to prove that, hey, we're for real. So I'll give a slight edge to Oregon, but this game could go either way. I just don't know. Yeah, it just depends on how well Texas Tech responds being their first ever college football playoffs and not playing for a week or two. All right, so that's college football playoffs. Let me know your thoughts, your predictions, if you agree or disagree on comments. Still don't have anyone live. Maybe I should wait an extra 30 minutes more so more people can see that I was doing this show. But it is what it is. I'm going with it. Now let's talk about NFL. Let's talk about DK Metcalf. That's the big subject. That's what I want to talk about at the beginning, like I said. But I stuck with my normal format, talking about college football first. DK Metcalf, huge incident. Pittsburgh versus Detroit, Sunday football. Pittsburgh wins that game, but in the second quarter, DK Metcalf has an altercation with a fan in the back of the end zone. There's a lot of rumors flying around that this is under investigation. I do know DK Metcalf has been suspended 2 games from what I've heard. So let me know your thoughts on that. Like I said, there's a lot of rumors about what's going on. The fan said he called him by his government name. DK stands for, I looked it up, the Kalen, or I'm sorry, let me get to my phone. I'm sorry. I know DK has a problem with his government name. That's what it sounds like. I think it's like the Kalen something Metcalf. I know in the post game, DK in a post game conference, I didn't watch it, but I saw some tweets and I didn't hear him say anything about racial slurs being said in the post game conference. What he was talking about was he doesn't like being called by his government name. He tried to change his name in the past. Somehow he got screwed over. It didn't work out, and they came up with something crazy. And he was talking about how would you like it if you were called this and that, and he said government name, which is weird. So he obviously has a strange thing with. Cause I guess the government gave him that name, and he has a thing with that. There's no doubt. But I know later on he goes on the show with Ocho Cinco and Shannon Sharp, and he says a racial slur was said, the N word was said, and he was talking about his mom, things like that. That could possibly be true, but I didn't hear him say that originally. I know a lot of people are thinking of like, hey, there's a lot of microphones and there's a lot of things on the sideline where people can hear what was actually being said. Fans are nearby, maybe they'll say something. So that's why this is under investigation. I am very 50-50 on this. There was a part of me where I can believe that maybe a racial slur was said, because why would a black man react that way to, like, he had this fan had like a blue wig on, obviously a huge Detroit Lions fan, and like, so he said he called him by his government name, nothing else was said, and then DK didn't like that. Like, so I can see both sides. I don't know what to think about this. But the question is, why would DK react that way? That's why some people think a racial slur might have been said, but at the same time, DK seems to have an issue with his government name, so a racial slur may have not been said. He just didn't like it, and he reacted badly. And DK Metcalf is kind of a guy he's out there, to say the least. I have a Seattle Mariners hat on. I live in Puget Sound. I live in the Pacific Northwest, so DK Metcalf played for the Seattle Seahawks for several years up here, had a pretty good career. But he has first round talent, but he was not taken in the first round because of some off-field issues in college. Don't know what they were all about, but he did drop in the draft because of that, so that's kind of interesting too. I'm no medical expert, but it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out he does have some things up here in the head a little bit. He kind of reminds me of T.O. Terrell Owens was the same way, very talented. I like T.O., had a great career, but he was like that also. And DK Metcalf is kind of like another version of him. He's like a physical specimen, just like T.O. This guy is 6'4", 225 pounds, no body fat, runs one of the faster receivers in the league, is wicked fast, big, physical. DK Metcalf plays with his emotions, and he is always on the edge. In his defense, a lot of football players are. It's a very physical sport. And DK Metcalf obviously has size, so he has a lot of physicality to his game. But sometimes that bleeds over into him doing some extracurricular things after plays. He gets dead ball, personal foul penalties. Sometimes he erupts on the sidelines and he gets frustrated. In his defense, he doesn't do this every game, but he has been known to do that from time to time up here in Seattle. And like I said, he was absolutely first round talent, but he was taken like late second round, I think, or third round, something like that, because of some questions about his attitude. I know he's trying. So I know he learned sign language up here in Seattle, like to try to help him out with his with some of these things. So and learning sign language is a very noble thing. So I give him a lot of credit for that. He's trying to voice his frustration, his communication in different ways. I think that's a big reason why he said he learned sign language, because he's trying to not say things on the field. I think it's very unfortunate. It's under investigation, so no one knows exactly what was said. Like I said, it's very 50-50. I still know what to think about it. What's your thoughts on this? Like I said, I could see either way how people could think a racial slur was said. That's why he reacted the way he reacted. It kind of looked like he kind of like grabbed his wig and threw an upper swing towards the fan. I don't know if it connected or not. I think it grazed him a little bit. If it connected, the fan could have got hurt, because DK Metcalf is not a small guy. But at the end of the day, though, I will say this: DK Metcalf was wrong. Even though if the fan did say racial slur, which is very bad, the NFL has a policy, but not engaging with fans. So regardless of what was said, if the fan is not innocent, DK Metcalf was wrong by engaging with the fan and having contact with the fan. That's why he's suspended 2 games. So we had to mention that also. But fans can be completely out of line sometimes. I've been in high school football games as an official, and they can just be downright nasty. I've been in college football games where I'm there as a spectator, and people are just saying ridiculous things. They get drunk, or there's completely biased to the home team, whoever they're cheering for. So fans can be out of line sometimes, and maybe this fan was, maybe he wasn't. But either way, DK Metcalf has to handle the situation better. I'll leave it like that. So that's that. Let me know your thoughts and comments. I had one person online very, very briefly. Hope I can get some more people back. Let's talk about King Henry next. King Henry rushes for over 120 plus yards in the Sunday Night Football game against the Patriots. He did have an early fumble, like I said in the opening, like late first quarter. I believe he has a fumble. He's had fumbling issues early this year when they started off 1-5. Like I said earlier, also, I don't know of him having a fumble history throughout his whole entire NFL career or in college. To my knowledge, it's just been more about this year. He's had this really kind of off year with the fumbling part, but he still had an amazing year. His West well over 1,000 yards again. He's over 1,200 plus yards, I think, for the season, pushing 1,300, something like that. He's up there, but I know he's over 1,200. Why was he not in the game the last 2 possessions? Yes, he fumbled very early in the first quarter, but he did not fumble the rest of the game, and he had a monster game. He was absolutely destroying the Patriots. He had a touchdown run like in the third or fourth quarter. I mean, I don't get it. I know Jim or John Harbaugh. He's a Harbaugh brother. I forget. I think it's John. I'm sorry. He's a very good head coach. Obviously, he's a Super Bowl winning head coach. He's the second longest tenured coach currently in the NFL right now. The one above him is Mike Tomlin with the Pittsburgh Steelers, but he's been with the Baltimore Ravens for a very long time. So obviously he knows what he's doing, but even though he knows what he's doing overall, I don't know. That was very questionable. I think Derrick Henry should have been in there. Second to last possession was one thing. They do have a very good backup. He is very capable. He's very fast. He is a good backup to Derrick Henry. But 2 possessions in a row, especially the last possession of the game when they actually got down, when Patriots made a comeback, they're down 28-24. I absolutely don't understand why this dude's not in the game. He's your beast, and he's been known for wearing defenses down the fourth quarter with his size. The dude's 6'3", 250 pounds, runs a 4.5 40. The guy's a beast. Defensive backs don't want to tackle him when he gets around the corner and gets in full sprint mode. I mean, he's a load. So I don't get it. I do not get it. I think Coach Harbaugh made a big mistake on that one. It might have cost him the game. Now let's go to old man Phillip Rivers. he played good 2 weeks in a row. His first game was up here in Seattle against the 12s. We know the fans were in full force that game like they always are. He goes 18 out of 27 for 120 yards, 1 touchdown pass, 1 interception. But he played well in that game. Gave Indianapolis Colts a big chance to win, but of course they lose in dramatic fashion on a game-winning field goal by the Seattle Seahawks kicker. Seattle Seahawks have a very good kicker. He's been a great kicker for them for the past several years. He's legit. He's solid every year. But Seattle Seahawks kicked nothing but field goals in that game. They kicked 6 field goals, with 18 points. I think the score was 18-16 or something like that. He played well, only passed for 120 yards, but that was by design because, he wanted to get the ball fast out of his hands. With the Seattle Seahawks, a very good pass rush, very good defense, and yeah, they're trying to get the ball out quick. It was working. But last night, Monday Night Football, he throws for 270 some yards. He played lights out. He did have a pick six at the end with that, which was unfortunate. It was 41-27 at the point, and before his pick six, San Francisco's quarterback Brock Purdy had an amazing game, 5 touchdown passes. He throws a late interception to give Indianapolis Colts like new life. 41-27 with like 4.5 minutes to go, and the Colts get the ball back and they're driving. They start to drive off well. He hits a couple of good passes, one to number 14, Alec Pierce, which is having a monster game for them, 2 touchdown receptions in that game, 4 or 5 overall for the game, and averaging over 20-plus yards of reception that game. And I think that's his league average. He's like leading the league in that. He gets deep passes. This Alec Pierce guy, pretty good receiver. So the drive starts off well, but then unfortunately, like a couple plays later, he throws his pick six to the linebacker. He doesn't see him. He's trying to throw the rookie tight end, the guy from Penn State. He had a decent game himself also, but Phillip Rivers did kind of telegraph that. The linebacker read it all the way, and pick six, game over, 48-27. But Phillip Rivers played lights out, with the exception of that. 2 touchdown passes before that, 275 plus yards. Like I said, the pick six was just unfortunate, but that's not the reason why they lost the game. They lost the game because of their defense. The Colts defense, which is normally pretty good, number 1 against the run defense this year. And that Christian McCaffrey, CMC just completely tore him up. Rushed for over 120 plus yards himself. Only like his second or third 100-yard rushing game of the season. But I believe he is pushing over 1,000 yards himself this year. CMC not having quite a great year, not quite as good as the year as he has in the past, but still going to get over 1,000 yards for the season, which is pretty good. But Christian McCaffrey can hurt you in a passing game as well. Very, very much a big time dual threat. We know this. And he had a couple of CMC had a couple of touchdown catches in that game. But the 49ers offense has just been on fire for like the past month. I think they said in the game their punter has not kicked since November 30th. That's 3.5 weeks. So they've been scoring like lights out. They're scoring touchdowns, field goals, maybe a couple turnovers here and there, but they haven't punted in almost a month, which is freaking absolutely insane. But I feel bad for old man Phillip Rivers because he's 44 years old. He's a grandpa. He's got like 10 freaking kids, and they're there in attendance in the suite, watching their dad play, and he played lights out, man. I gotta give that guy a lot of credit. 44 years old. The crazy thing is, I played in 5 years. The speed of the NFL is insane, and you've been playing in 5 years. And for him to play the way he did 2 weeks in a row, especially last night, the better of the 2 games, I mean, that was impressive. But again, defense let him down big time, which is odd because Colts have a decent defense. But I know they are very banged up in the secondary. I know they're missing, Sauce Gardner and a few other guys, and that was definitely being exposed last night. But they have number 1 run defense, and I couldn't believe they couldn't stop the run. That was insane. And the odd thing about it is, San Francisco usually can't stop the run. They're very banged up on the defensive side of the ball, and they're actually shutting down, the Colts running back, Jonathan Taylor. I couldn't believe it. He's had a monster year but he has been, last 3 or 4 weeks he's slowed down, but first like 10, 11 weeks of the season, he's averaging 100 plus yards a game. He's like he's over 1,400 yards rushing for the year, but he had a very meager game last night. Unfortunately, under 3 yards a carry, so didn't know what that was actually kind of surprising. I didn't expect that at all. I thought he would run all over San Francisco, and I was really surprised. And that was another thing he didn't. Obviously, it's not Jonathan Taylor's fault, but that put more pressure on Phillip Rivers to throw a lot, and it was a one-sided kind of offensive game, and he did well. Though Phillip Rivers played well for offensive, for having to throw as much as he did, and for him being as old as he is, and not playing in 5 years, which is absolutely insane. He's an old high school football coach, and his football team is watching him play. Obviously, they're very excited for him, like kind of seeing your old coach play. Kind of reminds me of that true story, the rookie, Dennis Quaid, played in based off a true story where he's a high school baseball coach, and he had like a lot of talent, like in high school. I think he played like a little bit of college ball, but he had like a lot of injuries, and so he couldn't continue his baseball career. But then, 15 years later, in his mid 30s, also he can throw 97 miles an hour again or something, and his high school kids were saying, "Hey, you need to try out. You need to try out and try to make major league." So he was doing it for the kids, and it's a cool story, true story. Of course, they made the movie about it, The Rookie. Phillip Rivers kind of reminds me of that a little bit, but the only reason is he played for a long time in the NFL. He played for like over 15 years in the NFL before he retired, and very good quarterback, but never did win a Super Bowl. But hey, he has very good stats. Been in the playoffs multiple times with the old San Diego Chargers. All right, let's talk about NFL Week 17 predictions. Cowboys at Commanders. I'm me and my best friend Monty are big Cowboys fans, and they had a chance when they won 3 games in a row at one point and looked like they might possibly be able to take the division away from the Philadelphia Eagles, but they have a completely laid egg, losing 3 games in a row now. But they do have a chance to not have a losing. They haven't had a back-to-back losing season since like the early 2000s. I know Dak Prescott is trying to avoid that for having back-to-back losing seasons for the first time in over 20 years. They have a chance to finish 8-1 if they can win these next 2 games, and they have a good chance because they're playing against the Commanders and I think the Giants, and they have the Giants number for the past several years. I mentioned multiple times, Marcus Mariota has played very good as a backup for the Commanders, but they're just having a horrible year. Their defense is really bad, which is surprising because they were pretty good on defense last year. We know about Jaden Daniels having an injury-plagued year, but Marcus Mariota has played well, but unfortunately hasn't resulted in a whole lot of wins. But in his defense, when Jaden Daniels has been healthy, he hasn't won hardly. They just had a bad year. They haven't won with Jaden Daniels either when he was in there. So it's at the Commanders, but I think the Cowboys will get off this losing skid, and I think they will win this game. Because they've owned the Commanders and the Giants the past several years. I think it will stay true this year. I think they have a good chance of finishing 8-1. So I will pick the Cowboys to get off this losing streak, but unfortunately, their playoff chances are over. Lions at Vikings. Lions have a very small chance being 8-7, like less than 5% making the playoffs. But Vikings are playing better. But the problem is I don't know if I think he's out again for the year. But JJ McCarthy has done well when he's been in there. But he's had this injury plague season. Of course, last year he hasn't played all because he has a knee injury towards ACL, MCL, something. Misses his whole entire first year. Then this is kind of like his rookie year, and he's only played half the season this year, which is really weird because he didn't have injury-prone problems at University of Michigan at all. He played pretty much every single game, so it's not like he's known for injuries. So I think he's just been really unlucky. I don't think he's playing this game. I think their backup is in, and the Lions are much more desperate. I know Vikings want to play spoilers, but the Lions are desperate. They lose in a nail-biter game at home against Minnesota last week. I know they had some chances to win at the end of the game. They had some quote unquote controversial offensive pass interference calls, OPIs, but I do think those calls were legit. I saw them on replay though. They were offensive pass interference, unfortunately. I'm sure Lion fans don't agree with me, but they look like good calls. I know at the end of the games you don't want to make calls like that unless they're big, but it did look like they were big, which did affect the play. Which the officials had no choice but to throw the flag. But I think Lions will win this game because they're desperate. I think they will win. Um, Broncos at Chiefs. All these games are Christmas Day games, by the way. These first three games: Cowboys, Commanders, Lions, Vikings, and Broncos, Chiefs. I forgot to mention that. And on paper, these games all could have been good. Lions and Vikings were two playoff teams last year, leading the NFC North. I mean, you know, no one expected the Chiefs to just completely fall apart this year. These look like on paper these should have been very good Christmas games, but unfortunately, the Chiefs, Vikings, and Commanders have had bad seasons this year, and the Cowboys. So no one really expected it. On paper, these should have been great Christmas games. Broncos at Chiefs. Broncos lost last week. Chiefs lost last week against Tennessee. My best friend predicted that game. I thought the Chiefs would somehow bounce back, but I did forget. Old boy Patrick Mahomes has the season-ending knee injury. Their backup is in. I totally forgot about that last week, and I think because of that, Broncos will bounce back. I think Broncos will win at Arrowhead, which is very hard, but I think Chiefs are just done this year, so I think Broncos will win this game and bounce back. Next game, Texans at Chargers. Texans on a crazy win streak. We know they have the number one defense in the league. Broncos defense is probably number two. They're either number one, number two, however you look at it. Chargers have a very good defense of their own, though. Justin Herbert has been playing well despite having that broken hand, having a cast on his opposite throwing hand. But Texans defense is legit. I know Chargers are on a win streak also, but so are the Texans. I think Texans will upset the Chargers in Los Angeles. I think Texans defense is just too good. They're going to get after Justin Herbert. Hopefully he doesn't get hurt. I mean, that will affect them in the playoffs. But Texans defense, they're nasty, man. And CJ Stroud is playing better. He looks like he's playing like he was in his rookie year. Ravens at Packers. Another very good big game. I think Packers quarterback Jordan Love is back, but if he's not back, they have a very good backup in Willis. He played well, unfortunately, in their loss against the Bears. They kind of gave that game away, especially the onside kick recovery, which is very rare in the NFL, less than 10% this year. But I think Packers win in Green Bay. It's just too hard. I think Ravens just losing that game on Sunday night just kind of I know they're still mathematically not out of it, but they have a very slim chance like Detroit of getting in, and I just think they're done. Lamar Jackson's hurt again. Huntley is another good backup. Same thing with the Packers quarterback. Both teams have very good backup quarterbacks that can get the job done. There's no doubt about that. But I think Packers are the better team. And Ravens just having issues this year for whatever reason. Packers win this game, but it's going to be a close defensive battle, probably a low-scoring game. But I think Packers will squeak this out and bounce back from their loss against the Bears. Bucks at Dolphins. I don't know what to make of this game. Dolphins were on a 4 or 5 game win streak. Now they've lost 2 games where they actually got their butts kicked last week, 45-21. That surprised me. I thought they'd win that game. Bucks are just completely falling apart. I love Baker Mayfield. He's found a home there, but I don't know what is going on with them. Bucks are desperate. This is obviously a big rivalry game with 2 Florida teams. There's going to be a lot of trash talking. It's going to be physical. Bucks, I think somehow the Bucks will bounce back, even though they completely fallen apart the second half of the season. I think somehow they'll squeak this game out. They have the receivers and offense. I mean, Baker Mayfield just needs to play the way he played the first 2 years in the first half of the season. I don't know what's going on in the second half of the season in his 3rd or 4th year at Tampa Bay. He's been pretty solid for whatever reason, last 4 or 5 games he's been playing like crap. But I think he'll bounce back. I got Bucks, but that's gonna be interesting because it's a big rivalry. Um, Pats at Jets. I got Pats all the way. Pats showed me a lot last week when against the Ravens when the Ravens were desperate for a playoff spot. Ravens got off a good start of the game, but Pats found a way to win that game. Drake May is just a real deal. Coach Vrabel is a legit head coach. I mean, after he used to play for the Patriots with, Bill Belichick, and there's all the Super Bowl wins with Tom Brady. And we know Vrabel was the Tennessee Titans head coach for a while. He got them in the playoffs a couple times. He's a very good head coach. Pat's got this game all the way. Jets are just the Jets. I mean, they've sucked for the past 2 decades, unfortunately. I do feel bad for the new head coach. I think he might be able to turn things around in a couple years. I just feel bad for Aaron Glenn because the Jets has been a horrible franchise for 20 years, and nothing's different this year. They're just bad. They have a bunch of inside issues, and their management's just horrible. They have a bad GM. Something needs to happen with the Jets. Steelers at Browns should be interesting. DK Metcalf is suspended, but I think they have enough weapons. Browns have very good defense. I think, oh boy, will break the sack record. I think he's tied it right now, but I think Myles Garrett will break it this game. I think he will get Aaron Rodgers down to the ground at least once, if not twice. He'll break it. I just feel bad for Myles Garrett because he's been on such a bad team, but they have made the playoffs a couple times with, in Cleveland, since he's been there. But I just feel bad that he's not on a playoff team year in, year out with his kind of talent. It's unfortunate. I think Steelers will win, but Aaron Rodgers is going to find himself on the ground a couple times. It's going to be a tough game. This will not be an easy game for the Steelers, but I think they will win this game. And give credit again to Mike Tomlin. 19 seasons in the NFL without a losing record. Currently, the Steelers are 9-6, and I predict them to go to 10-6 this game. I think they will make one of the last wild card spots in the AFC. The only problem with Mike Tomlin is he hasn't made a whole lot of noise in the playoffs in a long time. They've had a lot of early exits in the playoffs, but the fact of the matter remains that Mike Tomlin has not had a losing season in 19 years, which is absolutely insane. You got to give a lot of credit to him. I like him as head coach. He's strong. He's tough. He doesn't put up with no bullshit. And I like that out of an NFL head coach. He reminds me kind of like a college head coach or high school head coach. I like how he brings that to the NFL. I love it. Jags at Colts. I think the Colts are done. Jags are on a crazy win streak. They looked very impressive winning up in Mile High Stadium last week. I thought they'd lose that game. Trevor Lawrence is having a great year. The first half of the year, they're kind of playing 500 football, but they're like on a 5 or 6 game win streak, and I think it continues. Jags beat the Colts. Unfortunately for the Colts, the wheels have just fallen off. It's unfortunate that Indiana Jones had the season-ending injury, and like I said early in the show, Phillip Rivers played great. Nothing but respect for Phillip Rivers. He did everything he could, but unfortunately, it's just done for the Colts. Saints at Titans. Saints are playing better than I thought. Congratulations to Titans last week beating, the upset special against the Kansas City Chiefs. I love their rookie number 1 pick, Cam Ward. This is a tough game, but Saints have won 5 games this year, which is kind of surprising. But I think Titans will win 2 in a row. I mean, Saints are playing better football, but both teams are coming off wins because the Saints blew out the Jets last week. Me and my friend thought the Jets would win that game. 2 bad teams playing against each other, but the game wasn't even close. I think it was 29-6. But I think Titans will win 2 in a row. I mean, I like what Cam Ward is starting to do out there. He's had a very good rookie season. They just need better players around him. They have a good running team. They have good running backs there with Tony Pollard and the other guy. Like, they're good. That will help them out. So I got Titans. Seahawks at Panthers. This is a tough game. You know what to expect out of the Panthers. They're very much in the playoff mix. They could win the NFC South. Tampa Bay is still in the mix to win it from them. It's not over with yet, but right now the Panthers have the advantage. Panthers are week to week. It's hard to know what to think about them, but this has always been a very tough game for the Seahawks. Panthers always play the Seahawks tough. the Seahawks aren't careful, they can lose this game. Obviously, they came off a very big win against the Rams and an overtime thriller on Thursday Night Football last week, and an absolutely outstanding game for Thursday night. I mean, overtime thriller, like I said. But do they have a letdown? I mean, I won't say this is a trap game because Seattle is very well aware of their struggles with the Panthers. But the problem with the Panthers is they just can't seem to put together back-to-back wins. Does that continue, or can they finally win back-to-back games? That's the big question. Tough one for me. Obviously, the Seattle Seahawks are the better team. That's no brainer. They have a chance to be the number 1 seed in the NFC if they win out. I don't know though. They have another tough game next week against San Francisco. They can still win the NFC, and so can the Rams. They're in a three-team chase for the NFC West, and possibly the number 1 seed. This is a hard one, real hard one. That's why I can't say anything right now. I'm just debating in my head, man. I will go with the 12s just because I think the 12s are a better team, and Panthers can't win back-to-back games. But Panthers could prove me wrong, though. They might be able to. They have the ability. They have the ability to put it that way. I will go with the 12s. I will go with the Seahawks, but it's going to be a nail biter. It's probably going to be a low-scoring game. It usually is with these two teams when they face each other. Cardinals at Bengals. Cardinals' wheels have fallen off after starting off 2-0. They've only won 1 game since. Bengals aren't doing good either. Obviously, Joe Burrow being injured early this season with turf toe, but I think Bengals will win at home. They'll win their last couple games of the year to finish the season the right way. We just don't know what's going to happen in Joe Burrow's future if he's going to stay with. Obviously, he's got the receivers in Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and decent. So the receivers are there. The problem with the Bengals are their defense are horrible, like the Cowboys. Defenses in the league, they give up a lot of points. This hurt them last year, and it hurt them again this year. But I got Bengals. Giants at Raiders, 2 really bad teams. Obviously, Giants have a huge upside with their rookie quarterback, Jackson Dart. He's the real deal. He just needs to stay healthy, learn how to slide and not take bad hits. But he's got a tremendous amount of talent. When they get Scatterbo back next year, I think they'll have a better year. It's unfortunate he got injured middle of the season because it looked like they're starting to make some noise, and he got hurt. And Jackson Dart got hurt missed a couple of games with concussion and things like that, and some other injuries. I think Raiders will find a way to finally win their 3rd game. Ashton Genty did have a really good game last week. They lost to Houston, but I'm surprised how well they played. They lost 23-21 against a really good Houston Texans defensive team. I thought they would absolutely get blown out, but they showed up. Ashton Genty had, I think, his second 100-yard rushing season of the game, and he had a big game in the receiving category, also having a receiving touchdown. Like, he was lights out. I really like Ashton Genty. I'm glad he had his second or third 100-yard rushing game of the year. He could. Giants do have a pretty good defense, though, but I think Raiders will win this game. It'll be close, low scoring against 2 bad teams, but it will be competitive from a standpoint of 2 bad teams playing against each other. I think the Raiders will finally get their 3rd win of the year. Eagles at Bills. This is playoff-like football. Bills Mafia is going to be in full force. Eagles have won the NFC East after the Cowboys 1,000 rushing yards this year. I know he didn't get 2,000 like he did last, but no one expects him to get 2,000 rushing yards back to back. I'm good. Bills do have a bad defense. I expect Saquon Barkley will have a good game, but Bills have a very, very high-powered offense, and the Eagles, even though they won the NFC East, I still don't think they completely – I mean, they might have found their identity now, but they've had identity issues all year long, which is weird. After winning the Super Bowl last year, no one could quite figure that out. But at the end of the day, they won the NFC East, and I think the Bills will sweep this out, but I won't be surprised if the Eagles can actually steal the game in the Bills' home stadium. But I think the Bills will win a very high-scoring game. Eagles' defense isn't as good as they've been in years past. That's been talked about this year also. They're missing some players from last year. They could absolutely give up some points. But I expect the Bills to win in a very high-scoring game in Buffalo. Sunday Night Football, Bears at 49ers, another playoff-like atmosphere game. Bears, they're the cardiac arrest kids. I keep on saying they need to stop winning all these fourth quarter crazy comebacks. I think it could have hurt them in the playoffs, but it is working in the regular season. I mean, the Packers looked like they had this game won. They were down by 2 scores, wherever it was. I believe it was 16-6, and then Bears kick a field goal, 16-9. Then they get this freaking onside kick. Less than 10% chance in NFL the past 2 years, especially the new onside kick rules. Everyone knew the onside kick was coming in this situation because it was the end of the game, but there's no more surprise onside kicks in NFL like you can do in high school and college, and it works in high school and college when it's a surprise sometimes. But the NFL has to declare every single one. But surprisingly, the Bears got this onside kick. Dobbs, a sure-handed wide receiver, muffed it a little bit and gave the Bears defender a chance. The Bears onside kick guy, the kicking team, the chance to get the ball, and sure enough, he got that. So one, the Packers receiver touched it, so the ball is live, and two, I believe it went more than 10 yards. It's live if it goes more than 10 yards, or if the receiving team touches it. And I think both happened. It went more than 10 yards, and Dobbs touched it, and he didn't get it cleanly, and Bears guy got it on the sideline. He was Johnny on the spot, and the Bears end up tying that game, and they win the game in overtime. Caleb Williams throws an absolute dime to their number one wide receiver, DJ Moore. In overtime, they win it. Dramatic fashion. So Bears, Bears are the cardiac arrest kids this year, kind of like Denver early in the season, but Denver has played more consistently throughout the second half compared to the first half. Bears are still kind of, unfortunately, they kind of have all these fourth quarter heroics. Like I said, it's working now, but I don't know how it will serve them in the playoffs. But give the Bears a lot of credit. It looks like they're going to win the NFC North for the first time in a while. They haven't made the playoffs since 2020, and they're in the playoffs for sure no matter what happens, and they probably will win the NFC North. 49ers offense is on freaking fire, though. This game is in San Francisco. 49ers are banged up offensively. Defensively, we know this. I think George Kittle got hurt last night. I don't know if he's playing. I don't think he has a serious injury. They might sit him just to make sure he's ready for the playoffs. I don't know, but they do have other weapons. They're very good on the offensive side of the ball. Their offense is absolutely on fire. Obviously, with his talent, he will be missed, but their backup tight end is decent as well. And they have other good receivers, and they got Christian McCaffrey. And I think 49ers will win this game just because long trip for the Bears. This will be a high-scoring game because 49ers will give up some points defensively. But I think Bears defense isn't great. They're just okay. They are very opportunistic, though. They kind of have like a mid-level defense this year, I think. But I think 49ers will be too much at home. So I got 49ers, unfortunately. I hate them. I would love to see the Bears win this game, but San Francisco's offense is just on fire right now the past month and a half, and I think it continues. Monday Night Football, Rams at Falcons. Rams win this game. Dirty Birds just can't get nothing right since they lost the Super Bowl in dramatic fashion to Tom Brady several years ago. They haven't been right since. I don't think they even had a winning season since. Maybe a couple of 500 teams, but I know they have not had a winning season in the past 6 or 7 years, and it just continues. Rams will win this game, and like I said, they're still trying to play for the number one seed in the NFC. So that's all I have. I did get a couple people to show up occasionally on the show live, maybe 2 or 3. Let me know what I can do better so people can show up live. But either way, if you didn't watch the show live, you can obviously watch it when I post it on the YouTube channel here. But I'm trying to subscribe from the Grid to the Rim Sports Talk Show. Let us know how me and my friends could do things better on this show. Leave your comments, good or bad. Let me know your predictions about college football playoffs. What do you think? How do you think the final games will come out? Who do you think is the favorite to win, the college football championship? I know Indiana is the number one team, but are they the favorites? They may or may not be. Obviously, on paper, they are being number one, but a lot of other really good teams in the playoffs. So let me know your thoughts on that. And again, thank you for watching and thank you for subscribing. And Merry Christmas, everyone, and Happy New Year. God bless.